going on, folks? It's your man JQ right here on Dufftown Radio. It is Geeked Out. That's my man Free.
Yo!
That's Chandler.
Yo.
And Megan is out of town right now, so
Again.
it is just us three.
Where's Megan?
The beast is missing his beauty.
Where's Megan this week?
She's back home in Kentucky.
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 She's in Kentucky.
She's in
and
Kentucky.
she's taking care of business at home.
I don't know if you guys go on her Instagram a lot, because I follow her and everything. But she's using that little ET like in everything. So yay! The little ET's
Did we
helping her
give the
out.
little ET a name?
home.
Huh?
Did we give the ET a name or no?
ET.
It's just ET.
Well, she
name.
calls it traveling ET.
Traveling ET.
Because the original one is like this big.
Should we call it TET?
Yeah.
TET? Traveling ET?
Traveling
tet?
extraterrestrial? The tet? We should give it a nickname. But yeah, as you can see, guys, we are all geared up here for 9/11 and unfortunately, we were not all around last week when it happened, or not that well when we were supposed to record. So I don't know, but yeah, we're here and we're gonna do this because we owe it to everybody out here to pay respects to everyone that lost their lives and to whoever helped rebuild and helped fight during 9/11. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be a great show, guys. We got a lot. You can see here, Chandler is all decked out.
He's all decked out. USA!
Look at that.
USA! USA! USA!
It's funny because you walked in wearing a hat, and I was like, oh, my God, Chandler's wearing a
He's wearing a
hat.
hat?
And just so you know, and I tried not to stay political. I tried to stay away from being political on the show.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a red baseball cap.
Aw.
It says U.S. on it. It says U.S. Actually, what this is the jersey and the hat are from the first year of the World Baseball Classic, which was, for all intents and purposes, think of it as the Olympics of baseball. You had each country putting together their all-star team.
Like their elite teams.
So you had Japan was there with their best players. You had China was there with their best. U.S.,
Dominican Republic.
You had several South American countries that were there. There were, I forget the exact number. I want to say it started out where it was actually played kind of like, I think it's like the World Cup of soccer where they play in regions. And
and then
the winners of the regions go on to the finals. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go to several of the quarterfinal games, semifinal games, and then the final game.
Wow.
That was the quarterfinal. I think the quarter or semifinals took place in Phoenix, Arizona at Chase Field. And then the finals took place at Angel Stadium, Anaheim Stadium.
Cool.
Beautiful.
So luckily it's in driving distance from where we
I know,
are.
right?
Well, that was it for me. That
Yeah.
was it for me. That was the thing is that's but picked up. This is a first edition jersey.
That's awesome. And what year is that from?
You're asking an old guy. Are you crazy?
How long ago was this?
Well, let me look that up. I want to say probably at least 10 years ago.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I got a question. Who won that year? Who won the first inaugural?
It was, I believe it was Japan, if I remember correctly.
Japan won it?
Wow.
The U.S. did, the U.S. did not win.
Wow. Well, I mean, the U.S. always has great players, but I'm thinking, like Dominican Republic, or like the South American teams. But Japan, I mean, they got great players. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're dedicated to the sport. But I thought at least the U.S. would place.
So wait, who was in the finals? Was it USA and Japan?
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So let's see here. The first year was 2006.
Oh, wow. 13 years
This
ago.
went on from 2006 to 2000. Oh, wait a second there.
2006 to.
Okay, maybe. Okay, it's a little confusing here. It says that it was an international baseball tournament sanctioned from 2006 to 2013.
Okay.
And then after 2013,
They
Okay. Oh, okay. I see what it is. Yeah, it started back in 2006. It was run by one organization from 2006 to 2013. Then there was another organization that got involved in 2013.
Okay.
So it's still going on
So
to this day.
this goes back to 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, and so there were originally 16 teams, and the most recent champion is the United States.
Oh, yay!
Hey.
Redemption.
But basically, let's see here. It says it was voted out by the International Olympic Committee in 2006. So it has to do with how baseball was represented and stuff in the Olympics, because prior to this, baseball's now in the Olympics,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
prior to it being in the Olympics, there was no representation on the international level as far as a championship. So that's what this was.
So basically, they use this as like a, I guess a beta testing.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, if this thing works, then we'll take it in. Yeah. Then
we're
we'll
gonna
take
put it in the Olympics.
Okay, it says here it was the inaugural tournament was 2006, and it was 16 teams, and the first game in the history of the tournament was South Korea over Chinese Taipei.
Wow.
South Korea. I didn't know South Korea they were big on baseball.
Dude, they're huge with baseball. Baseball and even soccer. Like, they're getting into soccer now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They did really well, like, this past, soccer.
Okay,
thing.
so here it was. What it was the
If he says
the
2016.
winning. Okay, so Japan. I'm sorry, it was not Japan against the U.S. in the finals. It was Japan against the U.S. in semifinals.
Oh,
and
what?
it was Cuba against the Dominican Republic
There you
in
go.
that's
the
not that-
semifinals.
That sounds more like
Okay,
it.
and then Japan defeated Cuba 10-6
Wow.
in the finals.
Wow. That's crazy.
So it was a lot of fun. You know, it was a lot of fun. Needless to say, seeing different players that were on different teams,
Yeah.
but then they were all major league players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, seeing who was on the the Cuban team had an interesting team, because you had players on that Cuban team that were not major league players, but they were considered major league caliber because of the way the country was.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dominican Republic, they had a powerhouse team. I remember
Yeah.
that. You know,
That's crazy because you
it
know
was
usually
fun. It was fun,
like
so-
I don't know, for me, like I mean I don't really watch baseball too much, but I do. I feel like it's USA first, then like Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and then I put Japan like third, like in that in the.
You put all the, well, I hate to say, I mean, not to be racial or anything, but yeah, like the Asian teams, you wouldn't
Yeah.
think that they would be up to that level
Yeah.
of like Cuba and the South American teams and everything. But I guess so.
but then again, that's 13 years ago, so
That is
things
right.
might
Well,
have changed
I
over.
remember reading some articles on this, and that was how, as a result of this tournament, it brought a lot of attention to countries like China, who
Yeah.
had a lot of amateur athletes over there, but they didn't have any true professional programs. And what ended up happening is, as a result of this, is you ended up having scouts from major league teams going into those countries after the first year of the World
Yeah.
Baseball
Yeah.
Classic,
You start
and
recruiting.
discovering some very
Yeah.
talented ball players in those countries. So, but anyway, so that's what this is about.
That's awesome.
Well, before we move on, I want to see the back of that jersey. I'm just saying, who's number 17 for the USA national baseball team? Chandler Rice.
hey. All right.
I don't know, but it sounded like you knocked over a whole building.
So did you actually play?
Pardon?
Did you play?
Did you play baseball, like in high
Amateur?
school and all that?
I played baseball up through high school, and then I played semi-pro baseball after high school.
And what was your position?
Catcher and first
Oh,
base.
okay. Very cool. That reminds me. I mean, the only how many famous catchers do I recall? I remember Gary Carter from way back in the days.
Was that from the A's?
No, from the Mets.
Oh,
I think it was the Mets.
Yeah.
So
No, and where I grew up, needless to say, I grew up in Los Angeles, and there were a few times where, you know, during baseball season in high school, and players like Ron Say,
Yeah, I remember Ron
Steve
Say.
Garvey,
The
'cause they all
Penguin.
lived in the Calabasas area
Yeah.
where I went to high school. You'd see them come wandering around because they would come working out on our field as they were working out with
Yeah. With
Do
their
you,
own
do you
trainers.
remember? Do you remember what Ron Say's nickname was?
No.
The Penguin,
The Penguin.
because his arms were super short.
Well, his arms weren't the only thing that was super
Yeah,
short.
he was like,
okay?
how tall was he?
He was not a big guy.
Yeah, he was not a
begin
big guy.
with.
Was
But I
he
remember
like
because
It was, ironically, neither was Steve Garvey. Steve Garvey, for being a first baseman,
yeah,
you look at first baseman today, and they're 6'2", 6'4".
Well, yeah, 'cause they gotta
Steve was
stretch out,
actually
right?
he was actually a smaller guy, but just he was such a friggin' vacuum cleaner.
oh, he just
Yeah.
You know,
everything comes
as the word was, you know what? Throw it short because he'll scoop it up.
Right.
Don't throw it tall, but throw it short. So anyway, but
yeah. I remember Ron Say from his days on the Cubs.
The Cubbies.
From the Cubs, yeah, because I growing up in Chicago he was there around that time, and my grandpa used to watch all the Cubs games, and my mom would be like,
yeah,
"Look,
you'd
it's
be
Ron Say."
tortured all those years.
Oh
didn't
yeah,
you?
yeah. Yeah. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, the baseball it's become such an international sport, just like
But
basketball
it
nowadays.
is.
You know?
You know what? But let's face it, baseball is just like comic books. It is Americana.
It's
Yep.
an American
And that's
sport.
what this
Absolutely.
show is about. This show is about Americana. Speaking of Americana, how can you talk about Americana and not talk about Captain America?
Bum, bum, bum.
And what you have there is that's a personal piece out of my personal collection, technically Sharon's collection. It's Sharon and I, knock on wood, we were very fortunate and blessed that we actually became friends with Joe Simon, who was the co-creator of Captain America.
Can you imagine?
Joe created Captain America back in 1941. Had to do with, obviously we were in the middle of the Second World War.
Yep.
And so this is a piece that Joe did. He actually had in his library that he gave to us as a gift. And we have that hung up in our home.
And this is an original art piece. It's not a print.
No, it's an original art piece.
Yeah.
Joe used pencil and brush. And so he didn't use Sharpie or anything. He used pencil and brush. And that was a piece that he did that was in his, I don't want to use the term collection, but in his library.
Yeah.
It was, this may sound funny, it was a piece he had laying around his apartment. And he just like, oh, I want to give you guys something before you go. It was like, wow.
Right?
Holy
He's like,
Toledo.
this
No,
is not-
don't
this-
give it to me.
This
No.
is not something. This is like the something.
We actually have, and I think I might have, if I remember correctly, I thought I brought this in once. It was a postcard. It was a postcard that, this is so funny. It's a postcard that Joe did a hand sketch with coloring on it of Captain America on one side, and on the other side, he wrote our name and address, put a stamp on it, and sent it in the mail to us. It showed up on our mailbox one day. We're like, oh, this is interesting.
Right, it's an original Joe Simon just sent
In
through
the
the mail, 13-cent stamp.
Yeah, really.
Oh my
So,
god.
so anyway, I thought I'd bring that in because, like I said, Captain America.
That's an amazing piece.
Yeah, he's a symbol of
You
who
talk
America
about
is.
Americana, and there's nothing more Americana than that. So
And I love it says
baseball, comics, and Captain America.
right, and it literally says from the files of Joe Simon, Fort Leahy, USA. So that's pretty cool. Like from the files of, not from the library, not from the collection, from the files. He literally just have it filed away.
Oh yeah,
That is crazy.
yeah. He actually. I was able to go through his filing cabinet one time when I was over at his apartment, and it was just like, oh my god. And it was interesting because there was stuff like, give example, there would be files in there where it would be notes and stuff where it was character developments of characters that they never did anything with. Hence the story of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Hence.
The people don't. A lot of people don't know this, but the concept of Spider-Man was actually based on a character that Joe and Jack Kirby had created called the the Silver Spider. I think
Silver Spider.
I think it was the Silver Spider.
Man Spider.
and what it was not someone who was bitten by a radioactive spider. It was someone who had mechanical devices to help him to be able to act like a spider And that's what the original concept of the Silver Spider was. So when Joe and Jack, when Joe at one point left Marvel and was going over to DC, and Jack was staying at Marvel, Joe basically said, "Here, take these files. Maybe you can use them." And in those files was one of them was the Silver Spider outline.
Concept of
So back in the early '60s, Stan went. He called. Marvel was in the transition between what at the time they were putting out war, they were putting out westerns, they were
romance
putting out
books,
crime novels,
they
were putting out all those noir gen pop type of stories, because they had gotten away from the superheroes. Well, they were ready to go back to the superheroes, but Stan says he went to his guys. He says, "We need to create some new characters. Bring me ideas." And so the question is, where did Spider-Man come from? Now, did Stan come up with the concept of Peter Parker? Yes.
Yeah.
Did he come up with the concept of bitten by the radioactive spider? Yes.
The storyline.
But the general thought of having someone climb on walls and have the abilities of spiders and stuff like that came from the concept of the Silver Spider.
Well, not only that, I think Stan took a little bit of the original, having the mechanical stuff on him in the web shooters, because they weren't originally from his wrist. They actually had mechanical web shooters that would shoot these things out. So he might have took that mechanical part of it and kept it. So nice.
Anyway, but like I said, that came from the files that were sitting in Joe Simon's filing cabinet. That one day that we were over there, and he was like, "Oh, Chandler, go looking through there, see if there's anything you find of interest." Okay, Joe, no problem. That's Joe, all I can say is we love you. We missed you, man.
Definitely. So anyways, let's go and take a break. And when we get back, let's talk about 9/11.
Well, the irony is that JJ just signed a big contract with Warner Media.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
He is the Kevin Feige of. He's going to be the Kevin Feige of the DC universe.
Yeah. Ooh, that's some big hitters right there.
I know. It's like, ooh.
I told you guys about this months ago. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
I mentioned this. The boys in the know. Okay. The boys in the know.
We're still recording, right?
We are back, folks. Geeked Out, Dufftown Radio. We're going to bypass, because it's this is the show dedicated to 9/11. We're going to bypass our top 3 topics of the day, and we're going to just sit here and talk and chat about 9/11. So because we weren't, like I said before, we weren't here the week before to cover 9/11 on the day of 9/11. Where were you guys? Not last week, but where were you guys on 9/11 on the actual date?
Do you remember?
Oh, I remember very well.
Okay, because you're old, so I just want to make sure. I'm only 5 years younger than him. I'm like, yeah, you're old.
Guys, get ready. Okay. So I was living here in Las Vegas, and I got a phone call from my mother that morning. And she says, turn the TV on now.
What time was this?
This was
like 7 or 8 in the morning.
Yeah, this was sometime in the morning, and didn't even look at the clock. You know, when your mother calls you and says, "Turn the TV on now," you don't ask questions.
You just do it.
Yeah.
So, I turned the TV on. Needless to say, all the news channels. Here it is. See, this building, and it's like, what the heck is going on? And within a few minutes, next thing you know, the second building gets hit. And just watching this, one of the weird things that happened, and, at this point, I had known Sharon for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. She and I first met in 95, so this is 2001. And so she was there with me, and I remember her at one point just blurting out this number, and it was like 2,400 and something. I forget what the exact number was. And I looked at her, I said, "What?" And she says, "That number just popped into me." And I'm like, "From what?" She goes, "That's how many people just died, Chandler." I go, "Excuse me?" I said, "I didn't see that on the TV." She goes, "I know." And I'm like, okay. And that was right after the buildings collapsed, after they had both come down, when she blurted that number out. And I'd never really understood that until years later. So that day, needless to say, first thing I did was I got on, after we're watching all this unfold in front of us, at that point, I did not have the relationships with the people that I have now. I didn't have the personal relationship with John Romita Jr. or with his dad or with Joe Simon or any of the people that we knew that lived in New York. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have anyone to call to check on. Sharon got upset because her sister was actually on a plane flying that day, and I think she might have been she was flying from Texas to somewhere on the East Coast. And so here it is, where you had the two planes in New York. You had the plane in Pennsylvania. You had the plane going into the Pentagon. And I mean, she's freaked out. She's like, oh my God, and she's calling her sister and leaving voice messages for her. Please, Susan, call me. And finally, Susan was able to get word to her that they were okay. But Sharon was completely freaked out by that. I remember our offices didn't stay closed. In other words, everybody stay home. Mm-hmm. Don't go anywhere, So our offices, because I was working for the family business at the time, so several hundred employees working for us, and they were all told to stay home, don't go anywhere. We were just keeping an eye on what was going on. And now, moving forward, Sharon and I, this was, if I remember correctly, I want to say probably around 2008, 2009. And we were in New York for New York Comic Con. And one of the things we did was we did a little exploring. So we hopped on the subway, and we went south towards Battery Island, and that's where we intended to go, was Battery Island. And so we got off the subway, and we walked probably about a block away from the subway, and suddenly Sharon doubles over. She's like, "Oh my God!" And she's, I'm so sick, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And so, real quick, got over to a bench, and she's like, oh, I don't understand what's going on. It's like suddenly I just have this. It's like I got hit by this massive wave of just sick. I said, "Did you eat anything?" She goes, "No, I can't think of what it is." And I said, "Well, let's try walking some more and see if we can get through it." And we literally walked, I want to say about another 150 feet, turned the corner, and we were looking at the World Trade Center site. We had literally walked right into the area of the World Trade Center site.
Wow.
That's what she was reacting to. Sharon, as crazy as this sounds, Sharon is psychic sensitive. And we were reading the placards that were put all over the place, the dedications. And next thing you know, you see the numbers on these placards. And they're talking about the number of people that had passed away immediately when the buildings fell, the number of people that passed away for days later, and the whole bit. And suddenly that number I'm like, oh my God, that number you screamed out, that was this number right here. And it was the number of the people that had passed away to what they say immediately as the buildings fell. Is that she had actually somehow felt all of those people screaming. And that was the number that popped in her head, was all of those people like that dying.
Jeez.
And so now we understood what she was reacting to, so we started walking away from the World Trade Center site. And as we started walking away from it, the sensation of her wanting to throw up and everything started easing up.
So her nausea just kind of
she was getting
slowly
away
went
from
away.
the psychic energy that was being generated from that site.
Have you been there since?
Yes, we have.
And is it
she
the same
still
thing?
feels it
Yeah.
when she goes there. She says it's not as strong. It's not as strong, but you know, but yeah, we've been there since, and you know, I'm not going to sit there. We honestly, I can tell you, we honestly did not realize where we were. So I'm sure it's easy for someone who's watching this show that's going to say, "Oh God, that's a bunch of hogwash," blah blah blah. You know, oh they knew where they were. No, we didn't. All we knew is we got off at a certain subway stop. We didn't know what that subway stop was relevant-wise to the location of the site, because that's not where we were going. We were actually heading to Battery Park. And Battery Park was that subway stop, but further down the road.
Yeah.
And you know, it just so happened that we turned the wrong direction to go up to go up the street. We were just exploring. We weren't really, you know, didn't really think of it, and so it was a real weird situation to be in. You know, she was curious enough, once we realized where we were, she was curious enough that she tolerated as best as she could. Once we got far enough away where it wasn't overwhelming to her, but we were able to get close enough that we were able to look at some of the different memorial placards that were there. The hole was still there. The hole in the ground was still there.
Yeah.
You know, they had not built the memorial, the memorial as we know it today yet. The hole was still there. Fence all along it, you know, with the blockage, so you couldn't see into the hole. You could see into the hole only in the sense that you would look to where the gaps were in between the areas that were covered, so you knew what was there. But I mean, it was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience, and needless to say, you know, I remember you hear the stories of people as soon as 9/11 happened about how people got up and went to the nearest recruiting office. And I would have been one of those people had I not been 37 years of age and if I didn't have a hearing loss. You know, the fact of my age and because of my hearing loss, no way could I do military service. Otherwise, I would have been right there. I would have signed up on the spot, because I felt it would have been my duty as a patriot of this country to do what we have to do. So that's my story.
Free. What about you? Where were you on 9/11? Because when it happened, you probably were still sleeping because it was like
Well,
you're in Hawaii,
I was
right?
in Hawaii, and I was working at a nightclub the night before, and in Hawaii the nightclub's end at 4 o'clock, so I don't get home until like 5, almost 6 o'clock in the morning, and so I went to sleep. I remember this vividly. I went to sleep, and at around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, my roommate just literally bust open my door, and we normally just leave each other alone. You know, like, hey, breakfast is ready, that kind of thing. He's like, dude, you got to see this. I was like, what? Right? Because I literally just fell asleep. He's like, what? He's like, get up. I was like, okay. Yeah. And so I went out to the living room, and my roommate, his girlfriend, and my girlfriend at the time, they were all living together. They were all watching the TV, and I was like, what is this? Right? And he's like, dude, like this, it just happened. Like, it's in New York. They hit the first tower, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, okay. And at the time, again, I was groggy, and I didn't really take it all in yet. I was like, okay, so it happened. I guess that's it. And I was just about to go back to sleep because I was tired. And we were watching the TV, and all of a sudden, oh my God. And we saw that plane go right into the second building.
Yeah.
And second tower. And we were all just quiet for at least a half an hour after that. We didn't talk to each other. We just focused. We listened. Second tower got hit, and then everything started crumbling. And we were just like, being in Hawaii, it's a military strategic landmass. So we were thinking, who hit us? Because at the time, we didn't know who hit us.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Pearl Harbor. We already knew that the Japanese were coming. So, but with this, we had no idea. All we knew is that a plane went down in Pennsylvania. These people literally saved a whole bunch of other, and then the Pentagon and all this kind of stuff. We're like, where's this coming from? And we were wondering because the sirens are going off in Hawaii.
Oh, really?
Like those, because the military structures out there, we don't know if it was Japanese. We don't know if it's from anywhere else. Like one of the Asian countries, China, whatever. And so we all were like, we don't know what to do. We weren't prepared for this. I mean, no offense to Hawaii people, but we're not prepared at all. If one bomb hits that island, we're all dead. Like, there's no bunkers, So we were just like, what are we going to do? It's like, there's nothing we can do. We just got to, stay the course. And so the aftermath of what happened on 9/11, it changed the course of Hawaii, not just physically because, there's a lot of military there and there's a lot of recruitment going on there. Especially after what happened, everybody was signing up and all that. I had medical history already, so I couldn't do it. But I went down, and I went to the Army, the Army recruiter. I was like, so what can I do? And the thing is, that line was like stupid long, like 200 people waiting just to sign up. And so when I got there, they're like going down the line because they don't want you to stand in line if you're not qualified. And so they're like, oh, sorry, man, I don't think we can accept you. Because you got this, and you got this. So, okay, so what can I do? So, well, just stay vigilant. Go to your Salvation Army. Do whatever. Donate your time. Donate whatever you can. And so, we did what we could. But also financially, Hawaii took a big hit, just like Vegas.
Oh,
because we're a destination, a vacation spot.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to fly. Nobody could fly. I mean, after that, all the planes were grounded for a long time. And so, I mean, unless it's an emergency or whatever. But we, as Hawaii, we depend on tourism. We depend on all that stuff. And that just wasn't happening. So everybody kind of just stopped spending money, all that kind of. So, but.
It was kind of the same thing here in Las Vegas because, again, Vegas is very much tourist driven.
Absolutely.
And the fact is, while people could still drive in, the fact was that you had a lot of the air traffic that was not happening. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so I knew people in Vegas, and they were telling me that, like, say, for example, the Hoover Dam, super secured.
Yeah.
Even to this day, like, they won't let you drive over or whatever. But, like, they're like, if this thing goes, nobody has water from California to New Mexico. So and no power, right? So that was super secured. All these kind of things, especially in Hawaii where we're an island. A lot of people started learning how to fish again because spam wasn't coming in.
Oh, wow.
All of these ships weren't coming in because, again, they're out in the middle of the ocean. They can just get hit anytime. And so, yeah, it was not just financial, but emotional. Again, we all had to go to work and we all had to live our lives and everything. But in the back of our mind, we knew that this was going to change the world. This one thing that happened on American soil.
Yeah.
It changed the world. You know. And,
Part of what happened was that prior to 9/11, we got so complacent with our place in the world.
Yeah.
We thought we were absolutely safe. Consider this. During World War I and during World War II, with the exception of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States had very little threat of truly being attacked by any country during those wars. Yes, now in hindsight, Germany was working on certain plans to do things in the U.S. and the whole bit, but it's not like living in France. It's not like living in Italy. It's not like living in Great Britain, where you literally had to be worried at any moment's notice that you would have to go to a bomb shelter or something because something could happen because you were within range of the Germans or whoever.
Your border will literally border Germany or whatever.
And so part of what had happened is we had gotten this place of no one can touch us. We're invincible. We have one of the strongest militaries in the world, and we are isolated. But as a result of us getting involved in World War I and World War II, what we did was we removed ourselves from our isolation from world politics and got involved in world politics. And that changed it for us. Hence why the Japanese attacked us, is that we were involved in world politics. And they knew that that was a strategic point of Hawaii.
And like you said about the borders, like in Europe, a lot of the countries are bordered by other countries. We only got Canada and Mexico, right? And those are allies at the time, and we still are. And we're not going to start a fight with Canada or Mexico. So we thought nobody can touch us. We got a whole ocean on either side, and all of a sudden, we finally realized that all it takes is one determined group to get in. It's not going to be a whole war started, like with 3,000 planes. It's going to be 2 planes or 4 planes that come in under the radar.
It was going to be one person with the dirty bomb.
Yeah.
It was going to be one person gaining control of an airplane, which now is a giant moving bomb.
Yeah, it's a missile.
Missile. It's one person who is able to inflict mass casualties on hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Yeah.
And that changed our outlook. Suddenly we were no longer completely, totally isolated and safe. We were
not
now
invincible.
Vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I put a post on my Facebook page last Wednesday. And in my post, what I talked about was the fact that as a result of 9/11, for the first time in a long time, you saw a lot of people in America coming together hand in hand, arm in arm, and you saw them basically saying that we are here together. We are Americans. We are here. I'm here to watch out for you. You're watching out for me. We're watching out for you. And you had that kind of unity for many years. And unfortunately, in my opinion, in the last 5 or 6 years, you've seen that unity. You've seen that feel of togetherness, of neighbors helping neighbors, starting to crumble and fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And that, unfortunately, politics today have caused that to start falling apart.
Yeah, that tear in our fabric.
And unfortunately, I think it's one of those things that happens. It's one of those things that happens in history of countries and nations and the whole bit. Hopefully, we're able to find that again without having to experience
A tragedy. Yeah. So
hopefully, we never forget.
So my story
yeah.
is I'm probably the close. After hearing your guys' story, I'm probably the closest to people that have experienced it firsthand, because I have a good friend that from high school that was supposed to be in the World Trade Center that morning.
You were supposed to be there?
No, my friend was.
Your friend, okay.
She was supposed to be at a meeting there in the morning, which got canceled. So she was safe, and it took me days to find out about her. But let me kind of rewind. I found out, so at the time I was working for a company called Veritas Software, which is a data backup. So we like let's say a big corporation like Hertz Rental Car. Let's say Hertz Rental Car has a database full of customers and all that stuff. We back up their data. So the World Trade Center was one of our clients because we have so many different companies in there that we do work for. Anyways, I wake up that morning. I usually get up about 6:30 in the morning to get ready for work. I'm getting ready for work, and I get out of the shower, and then all of a sudden, like my clock radio's on, and I'm hearing the radio show, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's like a movie." Like,
Where were you, by the way?
I was up in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Quick question. How old were you?
20.
Probably 26.
Yeah, 27, 28.
Well, let's see. Yeah,
26, I
it's
think.
26.
Yeah.
26.
And how old were you?
26.
So you two are the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So anyway, so I get up and I'm hearing it. So I'm like, what's going on? So I turn on the TV, and I'm just stuck because that's the first thing that shows up on my screen is, the first tower in flames, basically. So I'm like, oh God, this is nuts. Knowing that what kind of job I do, I get, I'm like, all right, I got to get to work. I'm listening to the coverage on the radio, and it just, you get this feeling of helplessness, right? And these people on the radio are just like, I was like, oh my God, like they're at a loss for words. My commute's about 40 minutes at the time, so I'm just listening to the radio, and I get into work, and it's like it's crazy because like our staff is just going all over the place because it's IT based, so everybody's just all over trying to cover what's going on. This went down, that went down, and then I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, I got cousins out in New York, I got friends out in New York, and I'm like, all this stuff is going on around me, and our Knox and our network outage center had a TV set up with all the news coverage. I'm like watching that, and it's just crazy, right? I'm trying to call my cousins out in New York, and nothing is.
We're sorry. All networks are currently
nothing is going through. Nothing is going through.
Like I said, we had the same situation trying to get a hold of Sharon's sister. That
Nothing
was on a cell phone.
Yeah. And I'm going through my mental Rolodex, like, who else do I know out there? Who else do I know out there? And again, my friend that was supposed to be at her meeting, I tried calling her, no answer. I had another friend that I thought was living in New York, was actually across the river in New Jersey. I was able to get through to her, and she is right there on the border, watching it firsthand, and she is beside herself. Like she's like, I'm okay, but oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. She just. I was like, all right, I'm trying to calm her down. Like, stay put. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you're safe. Check on your family or call your family and let them know that you're okay.
Can you imagine seeing it so close and still being so like you can't do a damn thing about it?
Yeah.
Just imagine being able to taste the dust in the air and
cloud.
considering what was in that dust.
So, so I'm talking to my friend, and she's, again, like I said, she's beside herself, and I'm trying to calm her down. I said, "Oh, I'll let you go. You got to go. Just hunker down. See if we can go get some supplies to just, like water, simple stuff, batteries, whatever you need. Do what you got to do. Contact your family. Let them know that you're okay. If you need me to do it, I'll do it." And she's like, "No, I'll just call them myself. They'd probably rather hear from me." So that's going on. I didn't hear from I don't hear from my cousin for another few days. And then he's like, "No, I'm fine. My brother's here too. We're okay." I'm like, "Oh, thank God." So, for the days after that, I have the TV in our knock center just going. I have ABC News on my computer. They at the time they just had a video camera just rolling live continuously, and I'm sitting there like trying to hold down the fort with the rest of the company. Yeah. And then I hear about, because the company that I work for is centered in Silicon Valley, and those people that helped take down the plane in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania were a lot. There's a few Silicon Valley CEOs that were on that plane. Oh, wow. So there was a lot of just buzz around just Silicon Valley itself saying, okay, we need to honor these guys and everybody else on that plane for helping take the plane down. So it was almost very personal, because it's almost like, not really family, but like the camaraderie between companies. Like you see these names come up and you're like, wow, that you don't expect it to hit home, but it does, right? Yeah. Because even before anything, if it's not within your city or your region, you're gonna think, okay, well, that's on the East Coast. Yeah, I feel for them, but I don't have a personal connection to it. But then all of a sudden, these names start popping up. All of a sudden, this person is from here, this person's from there, and you're closer to the situation than you think you are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like even in Hawaii, when the names started popping up, and people from Hawaii that would work there or that were visiting, a few of them were, not more than a few, was from Hawaii, and there's two of them that were actually from the school that I went to, Roosevelt High School.
Oh wow, really?
And they were 2 years younger than I was.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So when I was a senior, they were a sophomore. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about it until you brought it up.
And how are they involved?
They were there. They were working at one of the companies that was in the trade center when it was hit, and then that's how they died.
Yeah.
When it came down. So, yeah, I was like, wow, I know them.
It's crazy. It's crazy, right? So like a year before that, literally just a year before that, I was in New York, and we actually, because I was doing at the time I was in entertainment, I was
were you with Kai at the time?
Yeah. So I was touring, and part of our tour was in New York, and we actually stayed at, I don't know if it was the Hyatt or the Hilton at World Trade Center.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So during that time, part of our I don't know, journey throughout the city, the year before that was one of our stops was a place called Chelsea Pier, where they have, it's kind of like Topgolf over here, where it's like it's a driving range.
Yeah. It's famous, world famous.
Yeah. So we stopped at Chelsea Pier, hit a couple balls, had drink at the bar, and then a year later, after the World Trade Center hit, come to find out that they used that place as a morgue.
What, Chelsea Pier?
Chelsea Pier.
Like where you hit the golf ball into the water?
Yeah, because it's basically what it is. Like it's a big building.
Yeah.
And then there's like I don't know if that's a parking garage. Like there's a big indoor area.
Multi-levels.
Yeah, multi-level. So yeah, they were taking the bodies in there into Chelsea Pier.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
I heard that and I was like, holy cow! I was just there a year ago.
Right.
Right, and some of the views of the site after that, after 9/11, like I was like, dude, I was right there. I remembered that spot. Like, holy cow!
Have you been back there since?
I have not
been there. You know, I did New York Comic Con with Channel the past 2 years, and every once in a while I'll get a chance to get off the table, grab something to eat or whatever, do my commissions, and I wanted to go to the site, which is
Okay, well, this year, since we're going in as early as we are,
yeah.
and we will have our own vehicle, I'll see, I'll
See if
see
we
what
can
we
do
can
that.
do about driving past the site,
I'd love to.
Can't you just? You might. I don't know about driving. You might want to just take a taxi.
Well,
Well, like I said, we'll have our own
he has his
vehicle
own,
anyway,
yeah.
so.
But I mean, I was gonna walk it
Yeah.
until I GPS it. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty far.
Yeah, no.
3 hours
If
and
you were to do
22
that, you'd
minutes.
hop on a subway and
Yeah.
go down.
Yeah, and
But-
you know what? Joe Rubenstein's like, hey, man, I got a subway pass. You could just use it if you want to go.
Yeah.
Because he wanted me to go see the comic book museum that's there, that was set up. But again, I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and get that thing. And just when I said that, oh, can you do a commission for me? And of course,
Yeah.
I'm there to make money. So, and then 2 minutes later, I'm doing my commission, and Chandler texts me, you got customers at the table. So I was like all over the place. But yeah, hopefully this year we can, take a few moments just to visit the site.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Speaking of comic books, comic
Well,
books.
I real quick, one thing I want to touch on, and this is actually something that I don't think anyone here is aware of, but back in the mid 80s to early 90s, I used to work in the law enforcement industry. I was not a sworn officer because of my hearing loss. I was a contract trainer. I was a civilian contract trainer. I worked for a gun manufacturer as a trainer for them, and but I basically worked around the law enforcement industry, and I had quite a few friends who were in the anti-terrorist units back in those days. And so this really brought home, while I'm at home on 9/11 watching all this happen, I have all these things playing through my head going, oh my God. And an example being, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a bombing in New York City it was, what was it, 93. And it was
it was a van. It was a van in the
Islamic.
basement.
It was an
Yeah.
Islamic group that was one of their early attempts. And I remember following that because that was towards the back end of my career in that industry. And so I sat there and I started keeping my ears and eyes open to see if I saw stuff on TV of any of the people that I worked with back in the day. But again, it was one of those things where there were certain words that I was keen in on, and things like that, because back in the time that I was in that industry, that was you had Russia, that was in Afghanistan, and that was basically the breeding ground of Al Qaeda. And the things that took place during that period of time, if you remember our history, the U.S. actually had people in Afghanistan helping the freedom fighters.
Yeah.
The freedom fighters. Well, when the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, pulled out of their support of the freedom fighters, and they had to do that because of political pressure. They had to do that because of other things. But the end result was, you imagine that you had these people, this group of people, that they were there used to having our support fighting against the Russians who were invading their country. And suddenly we disappear. Well, that breeds a lot of resentment. And that's part of what was the breeding ground.
Yeah, so it
that
kind of helps set
created
in motion
Al-Qaeda.
the situation ahead.
No, I think for us, for you and I, because we're the same age. I think between the '93 incident at the World Trade Center and 9/11, I honestly don't really think I was really conscious of the global scene. You know what I mean? It wasn't until 9/11 where I started. I think it happens to everybody.
It brought it to everyone's attention, but there were things that were going on in the world, but a lot of that had to do more with CIA operations, clandestine operations. You didn't have an open support mechanism like we've had in the last 15 to 20 years.
But I agree with you because I think we're a little bit younger.
Yeah, it's like
we were still in that. I was still in that. I got to get to my nightclub job.
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend and I have a car to, and I got to pay my rent and I got to do all these things are on the ground level.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't looking at the world stage. But yeah, 9/11 came up, and all of a sudden we all had to.
We're like okay.
Yeah, we have to learn. Yeah. We have to be educated on what's going around.
Well, like I said, what it did was it took us, and we went from living our lives like this, having the blinders on, and going, we're protected, we're isolated, no one can touch us, we're perfectly safe, to holy crap,
we're not safe at all.
We're not safe at all.
Yeah.
We're being stupid to think that. And it was quite an eye opener for a lot of politicians because a lot of politicians had that attitude.
Yeah, like
even though you had people in the government saying to them, there are problems we need to take care of. There are things we need to be watching. There are groups that we need to we need to keep an eye on. And it was like, oh well, no, we're okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
We're going to put our money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Let me ask you a question because you're older than us. Do you think, and this doesn't really have to do necessarily with 9/11, but do you think there in a person's life, is there a catalyst that causes them to finally open their eyes to what goes on in the world?
They being whom?
Just let's say Americans in general. Okay, let's say you're growing up, and like I said, is there a catalyst that causes people to say, "Oh God, I got to pay attention to the world," or is there just a maturity level in ourselves that says, "Okay, well, I've been so, like I've had the blinders on and I've been dealing with my life for so long, 20 plus years, whatever it may be. Maybe I should start opening my eyes up to everything." Do you think it's a catalyst, or do you think it's just being mature?
I think it's number one. It's a combination of the two. And I kind of put it this way. It has to do with society in the sense that it has to do with society, it has to do with technology. Okay, I think technology is probably the bigger factor in this than anything else. The reason I say that is
we're getting information.
Back when my grandmother was young and spry, her world, her sphere of influence was pretty much isolated to what?
The radio?
The town that she lived in, the village she lived in. That
maybe
was it.
the state, maybe.
That's it. My father, my mother, when young and spry, their sphere of influence was pretty much kept to more than the town or the village or the city they lived in, but it was okay. My father, as an example, was in the Air Force in San Antonio, Texas, and he would be able to communicate with his family in North Carolina. But what you didn't have is connections of, oh, I'm going to talk to someone over in France. I'm going to talk to someone over in Japan. You didn't have that at all. it wasn't until that next step, that next generation, my generation of the, where I was born in the early 60s, and here it is, I come of age in the 80s, basically, the late 70s, early 80s. And now we have what? We have the ability to easily, I say easily, more easily reach out to people across the country and around the world. And then you look at, we're talking about basically 20 to 30 years apart here. You go 30 years, 2000, 2010, and what do we have now technology-wise?
Yeah.
You can literally, interact with the person as if they were right next door to you, and they could be 30,000 miles away. Not 30,000 miles, but they could be 10,000 miles away, and yet you're able to interact with them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Friends, the whole bit, like they're right next door to you.
I think you're right. I think technology opened up the window to the world.
Yeah.
Because now I can literally get on my cell phone right next to me and talk to someone in Japan. I mean, we're talking real time.
Yeah.
Without any lag. But back in the days, you'd have to with the modems.
And another example is you look at the anti-terrorist units today. What do they have to do? They no longer can concern themselves with just what's going on in the U.S. They no longer can concern themselves with back in the 70s and 80s dealing with white supremacy or KKK or something like that around the U.S. Now they're sitting there dealing with websites by Al-Qaeda that are recruiting kids, and those websites are run by people that are on the other side of the world from us, a totally different philosophy from us. And they're recruiting kids here in the United States who, as far as these kids are concerned, they don't know any better. And what do? They're meeting someone down the street who is connected to someone in that website.
That's nuts. Well, I hate to cut this off, but we gotta move right along.
Well, but before we do, I like I said, I wanted to touch on something with you. My experience in Hawaii was different. His experience in California was different. What was your experience during 9/11 in the Bay Area? Because that's another hub.
Yeah.
Where it's like congested. I mean, that's another hit zone.
It was literally just like how it was here in Vegas when the shooting happened.
Pardon?
When the shooting happened here in Vegas, remember how
I was here when it happened.
Yeah,
yes.
so remember how everybody kind of got together and rallied. It was everybody was all about the USA, and it was awesome. That was my experience.
Okay.
So.
Was Schwarzenegger the governor at that time?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember. Anyway,
but you know what? Though,
that was the forgettable part of
that's
that.
That's one of the reasons why San
Arnold,
Francisco is one of my favorite cities of all time.
The governor.
Yeah.
Because San Francisco and the Bay Area, they always got love for each other.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, if you say hella, everybody rises up.
Yeah, right.
Oh, dude, that's hella sick. Oh, Bay Area, that slaps. Right?
So real quick before we go back to commercial break, I wanted to touch upon this because considering that we are a geek show and we talk about comics, I really wanted to talk about how real quick. I know I'll say real quick, but it's going to last for the next few minutes. But I really need to mention that comic books stood up in a big way at 9/11, especially a lot of the images that you're seeing behind me.
Spider-Man,
John Romita Jr., as you can see behind me, they put out really great comic books honoring first responders, honoring the people that lost their lives on 9/11, and for comics it meant something because I think by them publishing and putting these books out, it said, you know what, we're not going to be afraid. We're going to put our foot
we're going to tell
forward.
the stories.
We're going to tell the story, and we're going to support you guys. You guys need heroes, and your heroes are the first responders.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing with 9/11, and I don't know. I just remember during that time, there's all especially like, you had, John Romita's book come out. What was that? Was that Amazing Spider-Man?
Okay, well, basically, the story is that the issue that was supposed to come out in the month of September, was supposed to be issue 36. And what happened was, but the issue wasn't due out for several weeks after 9/11 happened, so it hadn't even been printed yet. And this is basically, John and I have talked about this, not in great length, but we've talked about this. First off, John and Scott Hanna, who was the inker on the issue. The writer of the issue was Michael J. Straczynski. Okay, everybody knows him from obviously Spider-Man. You know, if you're a Babylon 5 fan, you knew him from that. But so he was the writer, John was the artist, and Scott Hanna was the inker. John and Scott made a pact that if anyone put the 9/11 cover in front of them at a show, that not only would they sign it, but they would also put a sketch on it, and that it was something that they just agreed to do. I've seen some unbelievable sketches by Scott Hanna where he actually will do a sketch where it shows the cityscape of New York City, the skyline of New York City, and you know, just some unbelievable work. But the book was supposed to come out originally in the latter part of September. 9/11 happened, and at that point they're like, whoa, okay, hold on, we've got to do something different. It took them now 9/11, the date of it is, it shows it as being a December 2011 issue, which means it actually came out probably in November. I believe the release date was in November, but it took them basically 2 months to redo, to stop what they were working on and do this issue, which was dedicated to, like you said, the superheroes getting involved in helping the people that were affected by that. You know, I cannot fathom what it was like. John's very patriotic, and I cannot fathom what it was like for him to wake up that morning and to see that happening. I'm hoping that we're actually going to have a phone conversation with this about this exact issue, and we'll be able to share that with the fans, hoping, but we'll see. Anyway, but yeah, it was, you know, the fact they decided that they were going to go with a plain black cover, because how do you create a cover for something like this? So out of respect, the black cover was the simplest cover to do, and that was, everything went quiet. That instant moment of silence for just a split second is illustrated by that black cover.
Awesome. Yeah, and for the people out there that don't know this, it takes a long time for a comic book artist and the comic book process to actually get to the shelves. And so for them to do it in 2 months, they must have been working so diligently, because not only do you have to have the writing done, you have to have the editing done, you have to have the pencils, the inks, colors, lettering, everything to do with that book takes a long time. And so for them to do it in only 2 months, that is just phenomenal.
And also consider that you know, John worked in a way that what he would do is you would have a writer who would give John the plot of the story, and John would then lay it out
and do it,
and tell the story visually, and then they would drop the word bubbles into the whole bit. Not to say that he didn't deal with writers who would give him a completed script. He did, but you know, those that knew how to use John in his best would just say, "Here's the plot.
Tell the story.
Go tell the story."
All right. So with that being said, we're going to go to break, and when we get back, we're going to wrap the show up. Stick around.
All right.
We are back, folks. Geeked Out, Dufftown Radio. That is it for our show. But before we go, Chandler brought in, besides
More show and tell.
More show and tell. Figured, before we even start with that, just want to say shout out to the families, friends, everybody that's been affected by 9/11, and definitely, the first responders. They're definitely the biggest heroes in this whole thing. So, shout out to everybody involved. But yeah, let's go ahead and lighten up the mood a little bit.
Well, before we do, I just want to say there's a lot of kids out there because I mean, look how long ago it was that they've never experienced this. Go online, get some information so that way you know the history of why it was such a big deal. Why it was such a huge...
Why we can never forget.
Yes.
Never
so
forget.
that way, even though you can't, technically, because these 16-year-old kids, they're like, well, I can't forget because I've never known it.
Yeah.
I can't remember it because I've never known it. So get online and just get some information for yourself.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
I keep on diverting. It's freaking hilarious.
It's
Anyways,
all over the place.
So I just remember, because you were talking about these young kids. I just remembered there was a movie that came out. I can't remember, probably the latter part of the 2000s, and it was about a kid who lost his dad at 9/11.
Yeah.
And the only thing he had was his messages on the answering machine. I can't remember the name of the movie.
On his phone?
No, answering machine.
Okay, like an actual answering machine.
You know how they used to have the tapes?
Yeah.
So he grew up without his dad, but he had his dad's last messages from when he was in the World Trade Center.
Was the message...
I love you, son.
Was the message his dad, while he was
Yeah,
there? And
like
happened? Or?
Yeah, like.
Oh my God!
I can't remember the name of the movie, but I remember that was a kid growing up.
What was the premise of the movie, though? I mean, what was it?
It was basically a kid growing up without his dad, and his only memories of his dad are on that answering machine tape.
Did they do flashbacks to the relationship with him and his dad?
Probably. I don't think I really saw the movie. I just remember the trailer.
I'd love to find out about that because I'd love to watch
me
that.
too.
Yeah. Anyways, show and tell. We got a lot of great stuff here. First of all, Spider-Man. There it is. Okay, so you guys probably know better than I do. What's the big news about these Spider-Man issues?
First off, it's the writing team of the new Spider-Man book, and just so you know, this is, from what I've been told, this is a limited series. This is they're not rebooting Spider-Man at one all over again. This is a limited series, meaning it's a self-contained story arc series. But the writing team is J.J. Abrams and his son
Henry Abrams.
And
interesting.
From what I have not had a chance to read it yet, but from what I understand, from what I've read from other people or talked to other people, to a certain degree, they kind of have taken Spider-Man and they've moved him forward 20 years to catch him up to what's going on today, which includes him and MJ having a teenage son who's experiencing some of the same things that Spider-Man or Peter Parker experienced in school growing up.
So I haven't read it yet. Does that mean is genetically
You'll have to read it to find out.
DNA was
I'm not going to
altered?
spoil anything. But I can also tell you this: there's a tragic death that takes place in the first issue.
Of course.
Yep.
Of course it happens.
Death. But from what I understand, this is J.J. Abrams basically saying this is how I see this series. There's an acknowledgement to Stan and Steve, obviously creating the series back in the 60s.
Yeah.
But this is basically them bringing the series forward into the modern day and saying, here it is, let's start now, without it starting over as Peter Parker as a little kid. This is now Peter Parker as a grown-up.
In 2019.
In 2019.
With a
That's
kid.
awesome. With a kid.
And I still got to read it to see if his DNA transferred over.
I know. And then you also brought in House of X number 5. So
Who read House of X number 4?
oh man.
And whose jaw dropped as I handed them the issue?
Okay, so get this. So I just because you were in a rush to go, and I was flipping through it, I saw Wolverine pass, right? Because man, if you guys read,
It wasn't just Wolverine.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
So I'm setting this up. So imagine this: you have the mother mold, the one thing that's going to probably create the worst thing to happen to mutants, and you have a team of Wolverine, Penance, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Mystique, Jean Grey, and I think that was it. But basically, what happens is that Jean is the only one I think that made it back. Or no, did she not make it back? I can't remember. But Mystique dies. Wolverine goes, all right, I'm the only one that is going to be able to handle this mother mold. Because what happens is that the mother mold is up in space, and it's being held by 4 different pillars, and they knocked out 3, so they have the last one. So Wolverine had to go, and they set the mother mold on the course to the on the course, one-way course to the sun. So they're going to the sun, and Wolverine's like, he looks at Nightcrawler, and he's like, man. And this is so poetic, because he's like, do you really think there's something on the other side for me? And
There's what?
He said, do you think there's something on the other side waiting for me? And Nightcrawler basically says, when you get over there, look for me. I will be waiting for you, and I will be there to hug you when we meet on the other side. So Nightcrawler teleports Wolverine to the
And that was the only way they could get to where they had to go.
Yeah. So they had the last pillar. As soon as Nightcrawler and Wolverine teleported, Nightcrawler was just incinerated, because they're almost on the sun.
The radiation.
And Wolverine just slicing away at the mother mold, blah blah blah, and that was it.
While Wolverine, you can see Wolverine.
Yeah, you can see it's like
disintegrating, but at the same time regenerating.
Yeah. So he's dude, it was amazing. And then Mystique was like, she had to, because Mystique didn't finish her job, which was to let that 4th pillar release mother mold. That's why Wolverine had to go. So, but what happened with Mystique was that she was right about to pull that switch, and she got caught. And then the humans that were waiting for her threw her out the airlock. So she was just instant. She was gone. So, but issue number 5. Oh man!
Issue number 5 picks up right where issue number 4 left off. And surprise! Oh,
don't give it away.
Full of surprises.
Don't give it away, because
I'm going to look forward to hearing your response after you pick it up today and read it.
Truth be told, I did watch a review online of the book, and
cheater.
I know,
but that's okay. That's how I get a lot of my information in advance.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like this series is written so well, and it's gotten me so invested that I have to get.
Has you back to X-Men?
Yeah, I have to watch immediately. Like I have to sit there and what the heck is going on over there? Let me turn this off real quick. So, the writing is so good that I have to know what happens right when it drops. On New Comic Book Day, I have to watch. So, guys, issue number 5. What I've seen and heard so far, oh God, it's just, I have no words. I have no words, because.
Well, let's just say this. I think certain characters, continue to play out, as people would expect from these characters.
Yeah.
In other words, their reputations absolutely precede them.
Yeah. So, guys, you know what? This is almost like an informal segment of the show, because for the last since the series dropped, we've been covering this series ever since then. So, guys.
Go to your local comic shop, Celestial Comics, and pick up your copy today.
Yes.
I'm looking at just like the last 3 or 4 pages in this, and oh my God, I want to show you, but I can't.
You can't.
I can't.
Dude.
Oh my God. Like, okay, so I'm a big villains guy.
Yeah.
Especially for X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy nuggets.
Right?
What?
Let me put it this way: if you are a comic book fan and you have not picked this up, what is your problem?
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
You are missing out. You're missing out.
I can't. To be
Jonathan Hickman has done.
Oh, absolutely.
To be really honest with you guys, I can't remember the last time I was this excited for a comic book. I think the last time was Paper Girls, and even then I fell off after issue number 20.
Yeah, but I bet you Paper Girls didn't have the surprises this has.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Chris Claremont. Well, like, he's still going to be my all-time favorite X-Men writer, but this is ridiculously good.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God. Oh, and
so, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
So, with that being said, head down to your local LCS.
Yes.
And pick up your issues today. Pick up Spider-Man 1 by J.J. Abrams. Pick up
Henry Abrams.
J.J. and Henry.
Yeah.
Pick up House of X.
Number 5.
1 through 5. Pick up as many as you can.
If you haven't read 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to need those.
Yeah, because it says 5 out of 6, right?
Yeah, so there's one more.
So there's one more. So oh my goodness, you got to see this book. It's ridiculous. Oh my God. Okay. Whew,
Head down to Celestial Comics. They'll take care of you.
With that being said, that is it for our show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your man, JQ. That is Free.
Yo.
This is Chandler.
God bless America.
God bless America. This is Geeked Out, Dovetail Radio. We are out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your man JQ, Geeked Out, right here on Dovetail Radio. If you want to get more content from us, better make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't know what you're missing.